Good evening and welcome. Well, this is a day, this is an hour that we've been waiting, a lot of us have been waiting for years. After Chandrayaan 2 didn't quite work out the way we wanted, there has always been hope about Chandrayaan 3. People praying across the country. And you can see that on your screen now. Why? Because in 1 hour and 4 minutes from now, India's moon rover, that's the Vikram rover, will touch down on the surface of the moon. But the process between now and then is going to be difficult. Thousands of kilometers in horizontal velocity and vertical velocity will need to be cut down through a series of automated maneuvers when essentially Vikram does the job for itself. It needs to finally pick a spot that it can land on because the southern polar region of the moon has a lot of boulders over there and craters. So it needs to find the right spot, match a spot with what it has been fed with, which is images of the moon. It is artificial intelligence at work over here, and it actually touches down. But let's just take a look at what's been happening as we play out these images. Firstly, this is the Vikram lander. This is in fact mission control, and then the Vikram lander that you see on your screen over there. At a certain stage, this is the propulsion module which separates from the Vikram lander. The Vikram lander then adjusts itself by firing its engines. It uses its sensors to track the surface of the moon. And remember, artificial intelligence at play over here. It finally settles down. It is a difficult process, not easy at all. The speed at the moment of touchdown is not zero. In fact, it is at a particular velocity. It needs to be. And then a couple of hours later, the Pragyan rover starts rolling out. Let's have those images, that video of the Pragyan rover as well. We'll have that for you in just a few moments from now. But again, a repeat of this video from another angle, the 20 minutes of terror as it's known, as the Vikram rover, Vikram lander makes its way to the surface of the moon. Pragyan rolls out of the rover once it makes a soft landing. That's what we are waiting for. As I mentioned, and you can see in this animation, a lot of moon dust. We do not want that moon dust, which is why Pragyan will wait in the tummy, as it were, of the Vikram lander before rolling out a couple of hours later. So you're asking how many hours later? We suspect at about 9 to 9:30 p.m. tonight, if everything goes well, Pragyan will roll out. But just getting the Chandrayaan lander to land successfully, that is a big deal. But later on, Pragyan, the little rover, will roll out. The mission life of this entire mission is just 14 days. But there will be serious science happening in those 14 days as images of Vikram and Pragyan roll out. But as you can see, lots of enthusiasm, lots of children who are actually watching this entire event, big screen televisions across the country, several schools participating in the sense that they want their kids to be a part of this experience. So let's face it, there is pressure on ISRO to deliver, but they have a reputation of doing that. Yes, space is difficult. Yes, mistakes happen. But when mistakes happen, if something is broke, you go and fix it. And that's what the Indian Space Research Organization has now done. And we can also see images. I believe these are some of the first images which are actually coming in from mission control. Mission control's images now indicate, as you can see over there, a state of preparedness. It's all going to start in a little while from now. So there were smiling faces earlier on. We haven't really got any idea of the expression right now, but they all know what's happening. And the fact of the matter is this: everything seems to be on course. There is no word of an abort at this stage or a delay at this stage. All of the landing instructions have been pre-fed to the Vikram lander yesterday, and from now it is essentially an automatic process. The reason we are waiting is because the optimal time when Vikram arrives over the area where it needs to start making its descent has to be arrived at. That is going to happen in approximately the next 16 odd minutes, or maybe a little bit longer. But bottom line, between 5:20 and 6:04 p.m. is when 20 minutes is the time that it's going to take before the Chandrayaan mission with the Vikram lander actually does touchdown on the surface of the moon.
Otherwise, you could have prepared. This is not correct. டெஸ்ட் பண்ணீங்களா? ஃபுல் லெவல் டெஸ்ட் பண்ணீங்களா? லெவல் கம்மின்னு சொல்றாங்க. நீங்க வீடியோ ஃப்ரம் கனாடி மோட் ஜஸ்ட் கிடைக்க மாட்டேங்குது. நம்ம ஷீட்டிங் பண்றாங்க இல்லையா, அவங்க லெவல் பண்றாங்க.
क्या कर सकते हैं?
ओके
इंट्रोडक्शन में ही ऐड कर सकते हैं, करेक्ट ना?
ओके ओके
out of mission control. They are all getting set for the big moment. Before we come to that, let's just bring you this report on what the process of landing the rover on the surface of the moon will be.
Here we have a majestic liftoff of LTM-3M4 rocket carrying India's prestigious Chandrayaan 3 spacecraft.
India's celestial 20 minutes of terror. India will go through a nail-biting 20 minutes of terror or a T20 finish.
Liftoff normal, PY tracking.
After a majestic liftoff, ISRO's Bahubali rocket put Chandrayaan 3 in the Earth's orbit.
200 stages are separated.
Chandrayaan 3 took many rounds of the Earth gaining velocity. On August 1st, 2023, Chandrayaan was nudged towards the moon on its 3.84 lakh kilometer lonely journey. On August 5th, 2023, the Chandrayaan satellite gently entered into the moon's orbit and settled in its embrace. In a crucial maneuver, the propulsion module and the Vikram lander with the Pragyan rover separated on August 17, 2023, when the satellite was in a 153 kilometer by 163 kilometer orbit. Soon, the Vikram lander is brought closer to the moon's surface in an elliptical orbit before the powered descent can begin. On the day of the landing, the 20 minutes of terror or the T20 kick in for a nail-biting finish. In the powered descent, the Vikram starts hurtling down towards the moon's surface at a velocity of 1.68 kilometers per second, which is nearly 6,048 kilometers per hour, almost 10 times the velocity of an airplane. Vikram is now slowing down with all 4 engines firing, but the lander is still almost horizontal to the surface of the moon. It then touches down on the lunar surface with just 2 engines firing, and the legs have been designed to take a maximum impact of 3 meters per second or about 10.8 kilometers per hour. Once the sensors on the legs feel the surface, the engines are shut down and the 20 minutes of terror are over. India's flag reaches the moon surface. Subsequently, the ramp opens up, the Pragyan rover is rolled down. Once the Pragyan rover reaches the lunar surface, the rover is then free to move around the moon. The big moment arrives when the Vikram lander takes images of the rover and the Pragyan rover takes images of the lander. The first selfies by India from the lunar surface are then beamed back to India. Now, the real science can begin. The Vikram lander and the rover are both solar powered, and are made to last one lunar day, which translates to 14 Earth days. In New Delhi, Pallav Bagla for NDTV.
Well, there is a huge sense of excitement right now. I'm joined by my colleagues Pratibha Menon and Sam Daniel. Pratibha is at Mission Control. Pratibha, what's happening?
Well, I'm here at ISRO Command Center. Well, the stage is set, not just in terms of the live streaming, but the stage is set for the Vikram lander, which would be landing on the moon, creating history. We are inching closer to that particular moment, and India is definitely gaining or assuming significance on two fronts. One, the country would be known as the fourth country to explore the technology of soft landing, and two, we would be the first, in case Chandrayaan 3 becomes successful, we become the first to explore the uncharted territory, which is the southern pole of the Earth's natural satellite. Now, why is this so very significant is one, because there is evidence that the craters of the southern pole at the moon's surface is found to have water as well as ice, and this could open up new opportunities, new windows in terms of research, discoveries as well as new findings. And if India achieves that success with Chandrayaan 3, then this is definitely a remarkable moment as well as a moment that all of us should be really proud of. So all eyes are on that particular moment between 5:44 p.m. to 6 p.m. Well, we would be knowing whether Chandrayaan 3 would create a success story or not.
All right, Sam, you've got kids around you. Kids, such an important part of what India is trying to project. Sam, go ahead, tell us what's happening around you.
Vishnu, we come to you from Ispani Center in Chennai, where around 100 children have gathered to watch the landing live. It's organized by Space Kids India, a startup that's encouraging children across Tamil Nadu, across India, to develop interest towards space science. And with me, a group of children. Let's talk to them. How exciting, or how excited are you?
I'm very excited
Because
it's a very historical moment, and it has never been done before. Landing on the south side of the moon is a very historical moment for India.
last time Chandrayaan was not successful. What has changed this time? You're very hopeful.
In the failure of Chandrayaan 2, it failed in some points. So ISRO scientists noted the points, and in the making of Chandrayaan 3, they concentrated more on the points, and it became well. So let's expect a good landing.
Is it important for India?
Yes, it's very important as it's a historical moment, like my friend Shazad said, and it also makes India have a record. Because this is the first time India is doing it. The whole other states have not done this yet.
You're proud?
Yes, I'm so proud of my country.
Is there anyone who wants to become a space scientist perhaps?
Maybe.
What excites you about space?
I don't know.
But you've been following Chandrayaan?
Yes.
Let's speak to some parents also. I mean, what kind of excitement among you as parents now?
Yeah, it's like Chandrayaan vaanathu mele, landanadu moonukku mele, kondaadudhu thedudhu onna oya hoy, adu enna hoy.
On a serious note, a successful landing, what does it mean for India?
See, it's phenomenal like it used to be. Like we've done so many things in the past, right? Like it's going to be phenomenal like the past, and we're going to beat that over and over again in the future. And there are a lot of plans, like you can hear from their interviews. So like I'm just in the feel of like we've already landed. It's like that, yeah. So
it is not only it is a future for our child, and it is each and every citizen is a proud moment. Like a cricket match, how is it? It is more than that. It is a pride moment for this.
See, Chandrayaan 2, when it failed 4 years back, a lot of things were at stake. And this, I think, is a proud moment for every Indian, no matter which part of the world they are. And landing today on the moon is a very historic moment. Very few countries have done that. And India being one of them is a very proud moment and paves way for a lot of other bigger things for everybody to dream and then explore.
What has brought about this kind of excitement among children, among parents?
Everyone is excited. Everyone wants to watch what's happening around. Even the entire world is watching us. So I wish and pray that everything should be successful.
So Vishnu, quite an excitement here at Ispani Center where Space Kids India is organizing this kind of gathering. And in a sense, they can't really wait for that excitement to watch it live and also to get a confirmation from ISRO that it's a successful soft landing.
All right, Sam, thanks very much for joining us. Sam Daniel, our known intrepid who loves the Indian Space Research Organization. He's getting set to get the very latest news as well. But let's just bring you, in a little while, a couple of images from inside the Indian Space Research Organization's Mission Control Center. The live feed of the entire event is going to start at about 4:12. I'm going to introduce our guest, Professor Dibyendu Nandi, Annapurni Subramaniam, D. Raghurandan and Devadatta Mishra. Devadatta, let me come to you first. What starts happening at 5:20 p.m.?
Yeah, good evening, Mr. So.
Good evening.
I can feel, so I can feel the excitement
Yes,
there.
absolutely. Been waiting for this for years.
Yeah, and 4 years back, I was in the same mission control center when the Chandrayaan 2 was happening. So, though I am no more, but still I can feel the high octane environment, what would be happening there. And as we know, all is well if end is well. But unfortunately, last time it could not happen in that way. But gracefully, definitely things will happen in a very predicted way. And coming back to your question, actually this landing happens autonomously. You can see that in the control center, if you have access now, you can see people will be crossed hands and they'll be sitting ideal because before the descending operation starts, all the commands will be fed into the onboard computer.
And that's taken place yesterday. So it's just a question of activating the sequence, right?
Yeah. So it will do the activities sequentially by its own. So now the onboard computer is the boss of the lander Vikram. And no scientist. Now all the scientists would have been done their work and they would be just gossiping.
So Vikram is the boss right now. Mr. Raghunandan, you want to talk a little bit about that? It's now into the hands of fate, as it were, in about once ISRO gives the final command to activate the prefed sequences, Vikram does its job or not.
Yeah, in fact, we've been speaking so much about these 20 minutes of terror. I think the terror is what we feel when we have no control over the situation. Since Vikram is going to be doing the landing on its own, there is nothing else that anybody else can do. That the scientists have given all their inputs, everything has been loaded onto the computer, and now the guidance systems of Vikram will take over through the various stages. And Vikram has been given a fair amount of leeway in terms of its decision making on the way down. The algorithms have been modified to take care of any problems like those that arose last time. There's more margin for the lander to choose its site of landing. Previously, if I remember right, it had a 400...
ISRO's commentary has just started out. Let's quickly go across, have this out full screen. Let's see what's taking place.
सभी दर्शकों के जानकारी के लिए अब हम ISRO के अब तक के सभी लूनर मिशंस की संक्षिप्त विवरण प्रस्तुत करेंगे। जी हां, ISRO संक्षिप्त विवरण प्रस्तुत करेंगे। जी हां, ISRO का पहला मून मिशन चंद्रयान 1 अक्टूबर 2008 में PSLV रॉकेट के द्वारा सफलतापूर्वक प्रक्षेपित किया गया था। चंद्रयान 1 चंद्रमा के सतह पर पानी की खोज करके पहले ही इतिहास रच चुका है।
All right, they're talking about the history of the missions. We haven't quite gotten around to Chandrayaan 3. But Annapurni Subramaniam, could you describe to us the process that now starts taking place? What exactly happens as Vikram makes its way down to the surface of the moon?
Yeah, actually, I wanted to also mention about things which are done as preparatory as well.
Yes.
So tracking this spacecraft is extremely important. If you actually look at the deep sky space network of NASA, it is already tracking. So you can see the antenna stationed at Canberra tracking these channels. You can see the some commanding going up, and you can see the power. And it takes a round time of about 2.5 seconds, kind of a thing is listed there. So the actual commanding to the lander is one thing. but metadata, which is transmitted down, is important thing regarding its parameters as well. So that is what is being displayed and monitored there. So we should also make sure that, all the communication network, which is happening along with the collaborations with ESA and NASA, and also ISRO's own network, Deep Sky Network, is actually collecting the data so that we can actually see what is happening there. So after that, once the time happens for it to be landing, where in the orbit, it comes above the region where you're supposed to initiate that thing. So initiating command will they have to initiate that. So there will be some amount of uplink, but then most of the downlink is regarding the metadata regarding the parameters.
Okay. Let me just quickly go across to Professor Dibendu Nandi as well. What is the science that we're looking for in this mission, the science?
Well, so the Pragyan rover has a few instruments. The instruments are primarily looking at the surface composition of the lunar surface near the South Pole at about 70 degrees. We are looking for elemental abundances. There is a alpha spectrometer, X-ray spectrometer, proton alpha spectrometer. We also have a laser-induced spectrometer, which looks at firing a laser into the lunar surface and breaking down the surface layers and then sampling the content of the lunar surface. These are all from the perspective of looking for resources, mineralogy and resources for future missions, not just Indian missions, but I think this is a big step from India for the world in the sense of being able to guide the exploration and the vision of the Artemis mission as well, which we have now we have agreed to be part of. This is a global collaboration. So in a sense, what Chandrayaan discovers in the South Pole will be followed up by the Americans and other nations. And hopefully this will lead to the establishment of a base, human base in the moon, which will be able to mine resources from the moon itself, with the hope that from there we can leapfrog to other planets like Mars.
Let's just quickly dip in for just a few moments to commentary at the Mission Control Center. I think they're talking about the history of ISRO, not quite the Chandrayaan 3 mission is yet, but let's listen in.
Facebook, Twitter और YouTube पे भी देख सकते हैं.
Honorable dignitaries, delegates, scientists, media personnel, and dear viewers, a very good evening to all of you. We at ISRO welcome you to the live coverage of India's prestigious Chandrayaan 3 mission's landing event on the lunar surface. These are the visuals from Mission Operation Complex at ISRO's Telemetry Tracking and Command Network, ISTRAC, situated in Namma, Bengaluru, Karnataka. I, Arushi Seth, and my colleague, Dr. Padamdeo Mishra, are your hosts for the evening and shall accompany you on the journey of the landing event from powered descent start to touchdown. Today, we shall be witnessing the final phase of the critical and most technologically challenging mission operations of Chandrayaan 3, wherein the lander module will be making a safe and soft landing on the surface of the moon. These display screens show the countdown to the power descent start as well as the path that will be followed by the lander module. We are 18 minutes away from the commencement of power descent. India is at the brink of creating history as we all await with bated breath to witness the landing on Moon's south polar region.
From all right, images from Mission Control over there. I missed that little bit. Annapurni, did you pick that up? Was that 18 minutes till the event starts, or was it 80 minutes till the event starts?
18 minutes.
18
minutes.
Yeah. Okay. So 18 minutes later is when the process starts. 5:42 approximately is when it should actually be taking place. So, Annapurni, I'll repeat the question for the benefit of our viewers. What exactly is it that we are looking to see or observe as that powered descent begins?
Yeah, so when we right now it is orbiting, so in which case that the spacecraft is moving in a horizontal direction along the orbit. So when it comes to the designated point, you have to actually break it and slow it down, and then slowly bring the altitude down. And in that process, is a rough braking happens, and then you also have at some point you have to reorient the spacecraft so that the legs are pointing down. And then that goes into a kind of a soft braking point. And then at some altitude, they station and then figure out whether the point is actually, the place below it is safe or not. And that time they decide whether to go down or search around the area and then go down. So these are the major steps which will be taken. And then we also have to find out the velocities, the horizontal velocity, that's the speed, and then the horizontal and the vertical, the position, the angle, and the position of the landing area. So these are critical points which the algorithm also will be looping in to figure out what is the safe thing to do.
Devadatta Mishra, could you tell us a little bit about the speeds that the Vikram lander will need to decrease in order to make a safe approach? We've lost Devadatta for a moment. Let me put that across to Dibyendu Nandi. Could you tell us, Professor Nandi, of the speeds that we are looking at?
Well, right now, I believe the Vikram lander is hurtling at the stupendous speed of something like 2 kilometers per second. So translated, that would mean 10 times the speed of an aircraft. You don't land something at that speed. So you have to do the rough braking phase, at the end of which the speed will be reduced to something like a few tens of kilometers per hour, and you would roughly be a kilometer over the moon's surface at that phase in time. At which point then you enter the fine braking phase, where you have this elegant maneuver, tricky maneuver where the spacecraft changes its orientation, and then you would start firing the thrusters to reduce the vertical speed, because the whole idea is to land softly. So eventually, when it's a few meters over the surface, the idea is to reduce the speed down to something like a very leisurely strolling pace of something like 7 kilometers an hour, which I and you can walk at. And I believe that the Vikram lander has some tolerance there from about 5 kilometers per hour to 15 kilometers per hour. The landing system has inbuilt those tolerances from the experiences from the last time in order to sort of sustain the shock that we expect from landing at that speed.
Okay, just half a second. I believe there's some detail coming in from Mission Control. Let's listen.
Elliptic parking orbit of size 170 by 36,500 kilometers. ISRO, in its mission plan of following the incremental trajectory approach, carried a total of 5 earthbound maneuvers. The fifth apogee raising maneuver, which took place on the 25th of July, placed the spacecraft in an orbit of 250 by 1,27,000 kilometers. At the early hours of 1st August, the translunar injection was carried out, after which the composite module began the final leg of its long journey of nearly 3,84,000 kilometers for its rendezvous with the moon. The TLI was a key step in the mission, enabling the spacecraft to escape Earth's gravitational pull and travel to the moon. An orbit of 288 by 3,69,328 kilometers was achieved at the end of the translunar injection.
जी हाँ, ट्रांसलूनर इंजेक्शन किसी भी इंटरप्लेनेटरी मिशन के लिए बहुत ही आवश्यक परंतु कठिन ऑपरेशन होता है। इस सफल मैन्यूवर के बाद चंद्रयान 3 पृथ्वी से दूर निकलकर चंद्रमा के प्रभाव क्षेत्र में एक हाइपरबोलिक ट्रैजेक्टरी के द्वारा पहुंचाया गया। पुनः 5 अगस्त 2023 को लूनर ऑर्बिट इंसर्शन के द्वारा चंद्रयान 3 को 160 किलोमीटर के पेरीलून और 18,000 किलोमीटर के अपोलून के साथ चंद्रमा के इलिप्टिकल ऑर्बिट में स्थापित कर दिया गया। टीएलआई के तरह एलओआई भी एक बहुत जटिल ऑपरेशन होता है। इसमें हमें यह ध्यान देना आवश्यक होता है कि उपग्रह के वेगमान को एक निश्चित बिंदु से घटाया जा सके। अन्यथा उपग्रह चंद्रमा के प्रभाव क्षेत्र से बाहर निकल जाएगा। LOI के सफलतापूर्वक परिचालन के बाद चंद्रयान 3 की कक्षा को 4 बार और परिवर्तित किया गया। इस दौरान चंद्रमा की अधिकतम ऊंचाई को घटाकर 160 किलोमीटर कर दिया गया। इस पूरी प्रक्रिया में प्रपल्सन मॉड्यूल का लगभग 755 किलोग्राम ईंधन का उपयोग हुआ और चंद्रयान 3 के वेगमान को लगभग 850 मीटर प्रति सेकंड कम कर दिया गया। लैंडर मॉड्यूल को लगभग 150 किलोमीटर के सर्कुलर ऑर्बिट में स्थापित करने के बाद 17 अगस्त 2023 को प्रपल्सन मॉड्यूल से अलग कर दिया गया। पुनः लैंडर मॉडल के ऑर्बिट को 2 डीबूस्ट मैन्यूवर्स के द्वारा 150 किलोमीटर के सर्कुलर ऑर्बिट से घटाकर 25 गुणे 130 किलोमीटर के एलिप्टिकल ऑर्बिट में स्थापित कर दिया गया। इस दौरान यह भी सुनिश्चित कर दिया गया कि 800 न्यूटन के चारों थ्रोटेबल थ्रस्टर्स पावर डिसेंट के समय किसी भी चुनौती का सामना कर सकें। लैंडर मॉड्यूल इस ऑर्बिट में 4 दिन तक चंद्रमा की परिक्रमा करता रहा ताकि इसके सभी सब सिस्टम को पावर डिसेंट से पहले कार्यात्मक रूप से वेरीफाई और वैलिडेट किया जा सके। इस दौरान चंद्रयान 2 और लैंडर मॉड्यूल की आपस में बातचीत भी हो चुकी है। और संक्षेप में अब तक की यात्रा की बात करें तो लैंडर मॉड्यूल अब तक 21 बार पृथ्वी के और लगभग 120 बार चंद्रमा का चक्कर लगा चुका है और इस पूरी यात्रा में लगभग 55 लाख किलोमीटर की यात्रा भी पूरी कर चुका है। अब तक के इस पूरे अभियान में यह भी सुनिश्चित किया गया कि सारे ऑर्बिट मैन्यूवर्स इस प्रकार किए जाएं कि लैंडिंग साइट पावर डिसेंट की शुरुआत से ही लैंडर के ऑर्बिटल प्लेन में बना रहे।
That is true indeed. We have arrived at the crucial juncture wherein the orbit plane contains the desired landing site at the start of powered descent. We are also happy to announce that live images from the Chandrayaan 3 lander imager camera is being received continuously. The demonstration of soft landing on the moon's surface is no ordinary feat due to the innumerable challenges and complexities involved. The lander velocity has to be killed from nearly 6,048 kilometers per hour without any aid from the thin and tenuous moon's atmosphere. The lunar dust at the time of landing and the craters and boulders scattered over the moon's surface make it further complicated to achieve this. The new and improved Chandrayaan 3 design has been built after envisaging all the scenarios which the lander module can encounter. With several software improvements, provision for full-level redundancies, a plethora of special tests, namely the integrated hot test, integrated cold test, and lander leg drop tests were carried out for the lander module. The success of these tests has provided great confidence in the performance of all the onboard sensors, propulsion system, and associated guidance, control, and navigation algorithms. The key findings during the tests have enabled to improve the overall system performance. The largely unexplored south pole of the moon has been chosen as the intended landing site since there is a possibility of finding ice and other minerals which would be vital resources for future explorers. Apart from continuing investigations pioneered by Chandrayaan 1 and Chandrayaan 2, the Chandrayaan 3 mission will also provide invaluable data to the science community around the world. Let us give our viewers a glimpse on the configuration of Chandrayaan 3 mission.
चंद्रयान 3 का मिशन प्लान लगभग चंद्रयान 2 के तरह ही बनाया गया है। यहाँ यह भी सुनिश्चित किया गया है कि चंद्रयान 3 को रॉकेट से अलग होने से लेकर के चंद्रमा के निकटतम कक्षा में स्थापित होने तक सारी गतिविधियां चंद्रयान 2 के तरह ही हों। और अब हम यह कह सकते हैं कि यह प्लान पूरी तरह से 100% सफल रहा। हालांकि लैंडर मॉड्यूल के सेंसर्स और प्रोपल्शन सिस्टम को इस तरह से मजबूत किया गया है कि लैंडर पावर डिसेंट के समय किसी भी आपदा से बाहर आकर के मिशन के मुख्य उद्देश्य को पूरा कर सके। इस क्रम में लैंडर के मुख्य सेंसर्स कारा, लासा, LHBC, LDV और LHDAC का कार्यात्मक परीक्षण भी किया जा चुका है। LDV जो कि पूर्णतः स्वदेशी तकनीकी से बनाया गया एक नया सेंसर है, इसका मुख्य कार्य लैंडर के वेलोसिटी को तीनों अक्षों में कंप्यूट करना है। पावर डिसेंट के दौरान लैंडर के सटीक पोजीशन और वेलोसिटी का ज्ञान होना बहुत ही आवश्यक है। लिराप यानी लेजर इनर्शियल रिफरेंसिंग एंड एक्सीलरोमीटर पैकेज इस कार्य को पावर डिसेंट के दौरान बखूबी निभाएगा। ट्रैजेक्टरी जनरेशन जो कि चंद्रयान 3 मिशन के लिए बहुत ही अहम है, क्योंकि हर ऑर्बिट मैन्यूवर के बाद यह सुनिश्चित किया जाता है कि लैंडर की मिशन ऑब्जेक्टिव को ना बदले। इस क्रम में मैं यह भी आपको बता दूं कि ऑर्बिट डिटर्मिनेशन जो कि उपग्रह के पोजीशन और वेलोसिटी को बहुत ही एक्यूरेटली बताता है, एक बहुत ही कठिन और जटिल कंप्यूटेशन और एस्टिमेशन होता है। यहाँ यह भी जानना महत्वपूर्ण है कि चंद्रयान 2 का OHRC पेलोड अब तक काफी ऊंचे स्तर का डैम प्रदान किया है, जिसके फलस्वरूप लैंडिंग साइट के सीमा को बढ़ाकर 4 × 2.4 किलोमीटर कर दिया गया है, जो कि पावर डिसेंट के दौरान सॉफ्ट लैंडिंग कराने में काफी सहायक सिद्ध होगा।